Welcome back, everybody, to Cactus Crossfire. I'm here with my friend, my comrade, my prickly brother, Ed Ablisser. Eddie, how are things going out you're in Utah now?
Everything is going great. Yeah, I'm in Utah today. Sisto, great to see you. Great to see everyone. It's funny, we brought out the prickly tag line on what we do. And I mean, folks are like, Eddie, you're not prickly. And I'm like, man, you don't know me well enough. Come on.
Yeah.
Sisto, we are a bunch of prickly bunch. Certainly looking at things, I think a little bit more raw. I think getting a couple of good old time Democrat men in a room to talk about politics where oftentimes Democratic men aren't always welcome, right? And so I wouldn't say there's a bitterness angle there. It's just the state of affairs, and I'm thrilled that our sisters and our female leaders from all across the country are taking strong roles. But I think sometimes one of the things that we've heard back is the changing narrative in the Democrat Party is complex, right? And it should be the big tent, right? See, so we used to have this big tent
We used to
open
have,
for
well, I
everyone.
mean, we had a big tent, and I think that a lot of the camaraderie that we built with a lot of the women who are in leadership now has been beneficial. I think that we often at times, folks are very quick, especially with Hispanic men, are quick to judge and say that we're misogynistic and that we're kind of set in our ways. But most of the Hispanic men I know that I grew up with in the Democratic Party love their mama, love their
That's
sisters, love
right.
their tias, love their abuelitas,
That's
and
right.
and they're engaging, and they're a lot of the times they were the ones helping them make decisions a lot along the way. I for years my mother was my rock. She was the woman that I had those late night conversations about what was happening in the world politically. My dad taught me how to play the game. My mom taught me how to win. And so that was, kind of my takeaway from it. And a lot of the times, even now, everybody who follows me on social media knows that my niece is the light of my life. And I'm making a lot of decisions these days that are surrounding what's going to be best for her. And actually asking her as a 7-year-old, what do you think about this? And so, and she has an opinion because she's just like her uncle. So, love her to death. But, those are the things that we're going to be types of issues we're going to be talking about here on Cactus Crossfire and at cactuscrossfire.com. We encourage everybody to go to the website. You'll be able to see a lot of our posts and everything else there. We've got a lot of stuff going on. And
We
to,
do, and you have a lot of stuff going on, Sisto. I mean, one of the things, listen, if you can't get enough of Cactus Crossfire, if you can't get enough of the banter between my good friend Sisto and I would suggest you get on to Sisto's personal pages as well, because if you want to see his adorable niece, all the beautiful things that she is doing, he is the best Theo in the world. He is taking care of so many aspects in her life and really helping as we say, it takes a village, right? Aunties and uncles, tios and tias, helping out, raising kids. I mean, I tell you, Sisto, that I love my sisters, my brother-in-laws, my sister-in-laws. They do amazing work with my kids, and sometimes it's that external voice that really helps
yeah.
shape and direct them, right? And so, no, we're excited, and I certainly have a lot of work to do to catch my social media personal game up to yours, Mr. Sisto Beta.
Well, that's part of the political, that was a part of it was a strategy. It wasn't something that I just decided to do. And as a matter of fact, I won't forget when Facebook first came out. It was actually your comrades in Arizona. I was still using MySpace. That's dating myself a little bit more.
Yeah,
If the gray in my beard didn't do that
that's
already,
right.
but I was using MySpace, and I remember I believe it was one of the folks from Arizona that called me up and said, Cista, you need to get on Facebook and understand how that works. And once I started getting on Facebook and using that, then it went to Instagram, Snapchat, now TikTok, and and I was reluctant to get on a lot of these platforms
I
because it
know,
was
but
just,
TikTok, man, that's the
I mean,
platform.
and TikTok
It's
is
the
the
best
platform.
platform.
It is amazing to me how TikTok has actually blown up. At least in my world,
Yeah.
I love the application. As a matter of fact, when we were talking last week, and this will lead us right into our first topic, is one of the viral videos that I have on TikTok is me talking about my experience when I was 13 being arrested by ICE and being
Yep.
detained by ICE. Now, 13, I'm 49 now, so you all do the math, but it was a scary thing. And that week that I posted that is when this ICE stuff started really ramping up. And then just a few days later, we see, Alex Padilla going through the same type of situation with law enforcement. And it hasn't slowed down. And it's getting worse and worse and worse as the days go by and as we continue to talk about it. Here in New Mexico, we have delivery drivers who help, folks get their food and they deliver it to their homes and they go shopping for them and stuff like that. Well, turns out that there's quite a few immigrants who are doing that service for us.
Yep.
And it turns out that according to the Albuquerque Journal, they have a suspicion that American born delivery companies were reporting these guys to ICE. And I want to play you a clip real quick, Eddie.
All right, let's do that. Let's do that because, there's been a quite of actionables happening in the immigration space. And I actually had a really interesting conversation with a friend of mine. And they said, well, which party is right? Like, which party is right? And Sisto, I would love to dissect it a little bit more because, if we pull back a little bit, I sort of feel like the Republicans and Democrats have done an about face and have gone the opposite directions from where they were in the 1980s. But let's
Yeah,
go ahead and play this.
let's play this.
Back up, get back to work.
The same way
Get back to work. I need you to leave. This is private property. Escort her
You
up.
need me to leave?
Yeah.
Why?
Escort her. Yeah.
Wow,
So,
man.
this site has now become a very hot topic in Albuquerque. Following that incident, you had community members come out and start picketing the Walmart, trying to understand why Walmart's policy was allowing ICE into the store to detain people. It caused the city council and the mayor to respond with an executive order saying that they weren't going to also not support ICE doing these types of things through any city or state resources. So, it's and now what I had talked about the other day or on our last episode, it's becoming more of a scare tactic, but also it's causing so much stress and so much unwanted attention in the immigrant community, and they're just basically being targeted. And in some of these cases, we're even hearing cases of people that are buying these jackets, covering their faces, and just picking people up, and they're not even real ICE agents. So and I think that we recently just found out that probably that the Trump administration has now increased the policy not to just take people who are illegal, but people who are in the process of becoming legal and deporting them as well. So to your original question, Eddie, is who has the answer to this issue? Is it the Democrats? Is it the Republicans? Who Republicans love to point out the fact that President Obama had deported more people than President Trump in his time in office. But I would challenge to say that he wasn't doing it like this.
You hit the nail on the head, like tactics, right? Like
Yeah.
I watched this, and how can you not get called to emotion by the experience that I'm assuming that's a Walmart worker working in the actual facility, right? Where there are children, there are parents or people walking around. And that experience of watching ICE taser someone, have them fall to the ground, looks like an immense pain. We know it's a taser, the guy is probably safe. But the point is, the optics of it are extremely disheartening. And so I think we have to separate like the practice of a human being who's been granted this power to, detain individuals in a very covert and guerrilla tactic, right? That's what ICE is using. It is not the more appropriate processes that we see with municipal and county law enforcement offices, where those officers have to show their face, those officers have to identify themselves, those officers have a variety of steps that they have to go through before they detain an individual. ICE is certainly operating in a more distant fashion of I think more militaristic, and I think that's the struggle that the community is frustrated with, right? If the individual certainly needed to be detained and brought for questioning over their immigration status, there's an appropriate way to do that, right?
Yeah, and I mean, and before coming on air today, one of the videos I saw while walking in the door was from U.S. Senator Alex Padilla calling on, because Naleo is having their big conference right now, and he was out asking, folks, Latino leaders to start stepping up and start marching and start talking about this in a more proactive way, and that's the call to leadership that we've been waiting for. I mean, a lot of Hispanics, as a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago, it was the anniversary of the former U.S. Congressman John, I can't remember his last name, but there was a march.
From where?
From Georgia.
Oh, yeah, he passed away.
Yes. Yeah.
Come on. How come we can't remember his name?
Promise, guys.
What kind of civil rights leader are you?
Sometimes I forget. John
Lewis.
John Lewis. Yeah. So John Lewis, we had a march here in Albuquerque, and a friend of mine called me up and said, "Hey, are you going to be coming out?" And I said, I'm not a marcher. I've never been a marcher, and one of the reasons I've never been a marcher is because typically some of these marches get out of hand, and it's always the people that look like me that get cracked up. So I typically don't show up because I don't want to be one of those people. But I did go because this friend asked me to show up. And as I showed up, one of the things that was blowing my mind at this event, at this march, not a single Hispanic leader at all.
Really?
At this event. Not one. Not one Hispanic elected official that I know.
Do you think it's out of fear? I mean, obviously,
no,
I think no one knows who. I mean, let's be clear, right? Like many of our state level leaders, if they were walking down the street, the average person would not be able to recognize them. So yeah, more than likely, law enforcement wouldn't know who is who.
But I'm going to tell you that they have been very good. I mean, Speaker Javier Martinez has been awesome on this issue. Him and State Senator Cindy Nava were both sitting with the mayor when he signed that executive order. But also, he's been very vocal about his story as an immigrant and rising to the level of being Speaker of the House. And he's actually reached out to us, and we'll probably be doing one of our episodes here very soon. But he's also been attending different other events. So I'm not going to make it sound like they're not engaging in the issue, but at the march nobody was there. And so it's got to be more. And I think that that's the point that Senator Padilla was trying to get across to all of us is that we need to be more active. We can't just stand on the podium and say, that we're going to condemn this administration and what they're doing. We have to do more. We have to be public. We have to be in the public eye. And I had a very long conversation with my friend after that event, and I was like, I don't do this, but now I'm going to have to do it because it's incumbent on us to stand up and say when something's wrong and start a little bit of good trouble, as John Lewis used to say.
That's right. Well, see, but I always look back at movements, right? We look at movements across the country and let's call it for what it was or is today, right? Like who is the most powerful, charismatic, symbolic leader in the country, right? It's Donald Trump. Donald Trump is leading a movement. He is the tip of the arrow in the movement that is guiding the folks that really enjoy and agree with his policies. So let's flip it on the other side, right? You had Obama. Obama was the leader. He was the leader of the Democratic movement, right? And by virtue of being his vice president, it seemed that Joe Biden became that next leader. But you look at the party. You look at the party on immigration issues, right? I mean, this isn't anything new, Sisto. This goes back many, many years. This is all across the world. There, countries in France, in Germany, they're all dealing with these things again, right? Immigration issues in Europe, in Asia, right? Issues in Indonesia. Like there's immigration issues. There's patterns of movement of people that need to be addressed because people are seeking, refuge from economic, hardships. They're seeking refuge from terrorism that is occurring in their homeland. They're seeking refuge from criminal enterprise. Like there's many reasons why migration of people is important. Where's the leader for the Democrats? I mean, let's be clear, man. Like, where's the leader in New Mexico? Where's the leader for the Democrats in Arizona? Where's the leader for the Democrats in Nevada?
Well, I'm going to tell you
on this issue.
We're lucky because you and I both know who the leaders are, right? And quite honestly, in our respective states, they're very close friends of both you and I. I mean, I've known Speaker Martinez since we were in college. You talk about Arizona. I mean, and right now you just had a special election down there in Arizona to replace one of those great civil rights leaders. And who took up the mantle? His daughter. And Ruben Gallego, we're going to talk about him again ad nauseum. He's been out front. Senator Padilla is really stepping up and making that noise. So is my U.S. Senator Ben Ray Lujan and our Congressman Gabe Vasquez and our Congresswoman Teresa Leger Fernandez. So they're starting to step up. But I think the bigger issue has been are people in the Democratic Party giving them the ball and saying, we're just going to follow your lead because we don't need to tell you how to sell us on it. You just tell us your story and we'll follow along and we'll be voices in the background supporting you.
You're like Senator Elizabeth Warren. Is she going to let Ben Ray Lujan lead on this issue?
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, let's call it out for what it is, right?
Yeah.
We have a lot of East Coast Democrat voices that don't let the West Coast folks that are on the ground that see this every day really truly take that lead and take that leadership role out in DC.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm talking about. Like, listen, we've got amazing local leaders. I mean, I want to highlight the work that here in Nevada, Senator Donate is doing, Assemblywoman Selena Torres, they're really getting and engaging in the immigration conversation. The struggle that I see, right, is unification of message, right? If you have a national leader, and that's sort of what I was hinting at, Sisto, is Dems need that national leader. What do we see happening at protests? We see not American flags being flown, right? We see a variety of Central American, Mexican flags being flown. We see sort of guerrilla tactics happening in counter-protest, right? And none of that looks good. And it's not AI. It's not made up. It's happening, but it defeats it. It harms the cause that many of the folks that you and I are working to support are trying to fight for.
And this is something that we talked about in our last episode is that, there's individuals within these groups that then hijack these events, right?
Yep.
They show up and they want to talk about Palestine. They want to talk about, whatever their flavor of the month is. And you're right.
Transgender athletes in sports.
Yep. And so those all get lumped in. And so you lose the message, right? You lose, and the messengers get lost in all of the noise. And so, everybody wants this to be a Prop 187 moment for the Hispanic community again, just like it was in California during the 90s. And you and I remember that very, very well. But the I think the hardest part for Hispanics is that we don't have those Raul Izaguirres anymore, those powerhouses of the Hispanic community. We don't have Bill Richardson anymore. We don't have those types of leaders that we've had in the past that you and I grew up watching and supporting and following and idolizing. So, but that doesn't change the fact that the American public also has started to shift, and they're thinking about that. Recent polling is already showing that people they don't have a problem with immigrants being here. They want them to be able to get here legally, and that whole shift and that whole narrative is not going to play well for anybody who tries to use this and the upcoming midterm elections as a wedge issue to try to win brownie points. And and the more that we start seeing that happen, even Democrats themselves are losing support amongst white voters. We're even seeing that information. I mean, we saw an article from The Hill this last week talking exactly to that point, how what my good friend Eddie loves to call out on this show all the time, the wokeism
is happening.
And
it is.
And the wokeism is across the board, is even not being appreciated across all minorities, all the individuals, affluent white voters, everybody else. They're saying we've gone too far. And I think that in a lot of this, and not to bag on our friends who are consultants and do what we do and run campaigns and work for these organizations, but for a lot of years, you and I both know this, they've been able to live high off the hog of creating a narrative that they were just going to sell and continue to sell it whether it was right or wrong.
Brother, you hit the nail on the head. Think about that, right? What happened to the party? You create individual isolated silos, right? Let's call them. It's the wokeism silos, right? You have women, right? You have GLBTQ, you have labor, you have environment, right? You have native rights. You have all these different silos, and then you overlay it with advocacy groups, advocacy organizations, right? And so in order for every single one of those advocates to get paid, they got to raise some money.
Yep.
So in order to raise money, they got to sensationalize their issue as much as possible so that all the donors in the Democrat Party give to that one issue. I mean, I remember when it was like arts, Democrats, well, we got to give to arts for public art. And listen, I appreciate art. I think it's so important in our society. But that's what it used to be, right? It was the Democratic Party operating in full for all of these issues, and then art. But now you have, I mean, we could go through the list, right, of all the different Make the Road and Mi Familia Vota, like all the different groups.
Yeah.
And guess what? They all have people that work there. Well, and in order for them to get paid, they got to raise the money.
And you and I have even worked for some of these groups at some point in our careers.
We have.
And
not to disparage them. You're right.
And I'm what I'm saying is that even in that, even in our professional lives, I remember being a part of a Southwestern Hispanic voter outreach program that I went to it, and they're talking about all the money they're going to stick in California, all the money they're going to stick in Texas, all the money they're going to stick in Arizona to turn out vote to get more Latinos elected to public office. And I'm sitting here in New Mexico, and I'm going, mission accomplished, check mark.
Yeah.
And our speaker was Hispanic. Our pro tem was Hispanic. Our governor was Hispanic. Majority of our executive were Hispanic. Majority of the legislature were Hispanic. And I raised my hand and I said, so if that's your number one goal, then, I've done the job. What's next? And they looked at me and they said, New Mexico, you guys are always going to be the outlier because you're just a minority state. Well, this is the interesting part. And a lot of people wonder how little old Sisto from little old New Mexico has this pulse on the Hispanic vote. We've been doing it this long for generations. And when I started seeing trends that were saying, okay, wait a minute, Hispanic vote in New Mexico is starting to slowly taper off. It's not as high as it used to be. This is 20 years ago I started seeing this stuff. And I start ringing the bell and I'm calling all these guys and I'm saying, the vote is going down. The vote is going down. And they're like, no, Sisto, it's gone down, but it's not that big of a deal. Well, guess what? Now it's a big deal. And so, moving forward, we've got to start looking at those things, and people are wondering,
Well, that Gallup poll that you mentioned,
Yeah.
like this is something that should be a huge red alarm siren going off in every single Democratic caucus in the entire country, in every state house, in every central headquarters, because this Gallup poll is showing, right, that the issue on immigration, the voters that you once thought were in your camp, in your corner on immigration, and all this stuff happening on ICE, the stuff that we just saw in Walmart,
Yep.
that these voters are still or slowly moving to Republican platform. And that goes back to that question that I brought to you, like which part, why has a party flipped, right? And, I think something we don't talk about with immigration that really influences the outcome of immigration is our labor unions across the
Yep.
country,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Labor unions, I mean, listen, are we going to open up that can of worms today, Sisto?
Yeah.
Because I don't know how we close that thing, and the ghost of Hoffa is going to be lingering behind us quite a bit. But labor unions are not the biggest fans of immigration, especially to the Southwest.
Well,
And labor unions have been historically in opposition. While let's talk about economic policies, right? Chambers of Commerce have supported widespread growth on immigration. So where do those two, labor unions historically a Democratic function, Chambers of Commerce historically a Republican institution, but yet they're on opposite ends of where the policy issues are for both parties.
And and at the end of the day, our labor unions have always been pro-immigrant. I mean, they've always been pro-immigrant. They've always fought for immigrants. A majority of them were run by immigrants at one point or another, whether they be Italians or Irish or whomever. But in that movement itself, the unions themselves. I love my unions. I love my blue collar guys. They're the guys I go to first. My mom was an educator, and she was a member of a union. She started her union in her small town. But at the same time, what we have gotten away from is those backbone unions. I mean, we don't talk to building trades like we used to. And Eddie, you know this from being in your positions in Nevada, and I'm sure you have these conversations around when you were in cabinet meetings of, where's the trades in our schools? They've all but disappeared. I mean, I remember
100%.
When I was in school, I remember taking, building trades, auto classes, and ag. And those were all helping people like myself who grew up in a rural community think of another job outside of just going to college. And I learned a lot of those skills. As a matter of fact, I had a plumber in my house today fixing some stuff, and he was talking about, he needed to do X, Y, and Z, and I was able to talk to him about it. And he's like, "You a plumber?" I said, "Nope. I'm a son of a plumber, but I'm not a plumber."
You certainly are a son of a plumber. I'm going to use that. Dang.
Well, just, and with the passing of Hulk Hogan, to quote Dusty Rhodes, I'm a son of a plumber,
I love it.
So,
love it.
Those are all great things that we need to get back to. And the conversations you and I are having now, honestly, like we've always had with each other, going way back to our earliest days and getting involved in politics, these are the conversations that are not happening at the national level. People aren't saying, where are we wrong? They're saying, no. We've got the answers. And let me just, here, sign another contract so I can go out and work this issue for you. And I promise you that we'll get you close.
How often do you think the Democrat Party is going into our labor union halls and talking to the men and women in those halls and saying, "Hey, what are you really going through? What do you really care about?" Right?
Yeah.
Because you're absolutely right. Like historically, unions have been supportive of immigration, right? The appropriate pathways of immigration, UFCW and the work that Dolores Huerta did in the Southwest. Like, I feel it honored that I've had a chance to work with her on multiple occasions. What an amazing woman,
I
right?
guess you just like working with New Mexicans. Is that what it is?
Huh? There it is.
Yeah. There's another
Right?
New Mexican.
They produce the best.
Yeah.
Right? Mayor Gallegos kicking butt.
Yeah.
So the point is, the party is, I still think, rudderless because we don't have that national head. We got a lot of great leaders at our local levels, at our state levels. We need to inject a true unified direction,
And
right?
let's
And move out. Like, we need to criticize folks that try to hijack the movement, try to hijack the movement for violence and divisiveness, and
when
like that type of stuff doesn't help.
And when you see the hijacking happen, and so to be fair, just because, and me and Eddie talk about this because we're Democrats and we're frustrated, but to be fair, the Republicans aren't that much better either, because they've been hijacked by the MAGA movement, and they were hijacked 8 years ago by the Tea Party, and they were hijacked, and they've been victims of more hijackings than a lot of the flights that fly around the world. So I mean, that's the problem with this scenario is that in either situation it never ends well, and
it doesn't. But to that point, right? Think about this. There are many Republicans that are disgusted at what's happening with the immigration, with the ICE efforts across the country. Why? Because these are economically driven, right? Economists in practice and theory, business owners that are part of the Republican Party because they embrace this free market capitalism that they have pushed.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, here comes ICE. And all of a sudden, the opportunity for labor in an appropriate exchange now becomes dwindled, right? And when you exhaust the marketplace, prices skyrocket, and now everyone else is going to be paying for it. And that is not free market economy. So, but you're absolutely right. The hijacking the Republican Party that has, let's be clear. What is all this about? It's a distraction. Trump is the best at doing distractions away from issues, right? If you bounce from one thing to the next, people will move on and forget about some of the stuff that he said or did and move to the next crisis or apparent crisis in their head.
And the apparent crisis that he has going on for himself right now that he's trying to deflect as much as he can is this whole Epstein situation, right? And it's blowing my mind how, at one point somebody says there's a file on my desk with a bunch of names in it, and then suddenly there is no file. There is no. In New Mexico, we have a tie to this whole Epstein situation. Epstein had a ranch here in New Mexico. And,
oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It was.
I didn't know you guys were allowed to have those type of ranches in New Mexico. Nevada.
No, not the same.
They have those type of ranches.
Those are different ranch.
Oh, you sure?
I wasn't at the ranch. I never went to the ranch. I've never seen the ranch. I've seen aerial photos of the ranch, but I've never been to the ranch. But a lot of the folks that are surrounding this issue is, they're pointing back to Trump and saying, okay, why can't you just come clean? Why can't you just let us know what's going on? And just tell us if you're in the file. And I mean, this Department of Justice right now, this federal Department of Justice it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And this president has it, but their blind loyalty to him keeps him loyal to them as well. And he doesn't get rid of them. He keeps them around. He defends them because they defend him. What are your thoughts?
But the thing, so I'm struggling with, listen, the Epstein thing is disgusting and bizarre. And there's this underbelly in this country, right? Of, let's call it perverted, sick individuals. Mm-hmm. That's who they are.
Yeah.
And it's gross.
Yeah.
Right. And folks like us, we just need to call it out for what it is. It's all gross. But I remember growing up in politics. I remember being a freshman, and I remember, the newspaper came out, Sisto, the Kenneth Starr report.
Yeah.
On Clinton.
Yep.
And oh man, every Democrat alive running to his aid, defending him. Who cares? All he did was use a cigar, right? Come on. And I remember as this kid, oh my gosh, this is so bizarre, right? Because here the Democratic Party is fully supporting and defending their president. He was the leader of their party for, really sick and bad
Behavior.
immoral functions and behaviors. And the Republicans, the moral majority, right? And that's one of the things that has been hijacked, right? Moral majority,
Doesn't
Christian
exist.
coalition, they're no longer really
no.
part of the Republican Party anymore, right?
No, they're
But
not.
they ran, they were fighting him, Pat Buchanan, my good friend Ralph Reed. I mean, they were fighting Clinton and all that stuff. Then fast forward, here we are in 2025. It's like the roles are reversed. And the Democrats are these like moral police that are like, this is gross, this is bad, blah, 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 blah. He marries someone half his age. Yuck, gross.
Yeah.
And the Republicans are like, who cares?
Yeah.
Free love.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I mean, just the total number of Republicans over the last 5 years that have, I mean, remember, there was another nominee to be U.S. Attorney General, was a congressman from Florida who was going to be named. And there was a House ethics complaint against him for some behaviors and, payoffs that he was doing. And I mean, and that's the thing. It's not like the American public or the Republican Party didn't know who this guy was. I mean, they knew about the payoffs. They knew about what was happening. It was found to be true. And that wasn't good enough for people to, but imagine.
There's a couple of congressional members that are pushing back. It's interesting, and those were probably the same ones that pushed back on Congressman Sixhead over there.
Yeah.
That, right. He got booted out. Like, you're absolutely right. But again, when we take these, characteristics of both parties, right? We know that there's many hardworking, thoughtful, conscientious, great individuals in both parties. You know them, Sisto. I know them. Some are members of my family, right? Yours as well.
Yeah.
We know that. But we're talking about the optics that happen on the polis, the public narrative that occurs. And if we can't criticize where each party is tending to be sort of ridiculous in their positioning, right? Our ability to help influence things for the good becomes mute. And I think that's why the value of this Cactus Crossfire podcast is so important, is because the narrative needs to continue to be challenged. And Democrats can't get comfortable and just, open borders, open borders, open borders. I mean, you think if Democrats say open borders enough times, I don't think there'll be any members in the party, right? Like, it's crazy.
A lot of folks that have been reaching out to us about this podcast right now, they've been excited about us doing this simply because I've built a reputation of being one of the guys that throws his hand up and says, wait a minute, hold on. We need to have this conversation, and calling it like it is. And, a part of that is it's not to be malicious or harmful to anyone, but to actually do what you and I are hoping this podcast is going to do. And what is seemingly doing is starting the dialogue and opening the conversation. And, me and Eddie are the first two people to tell you we don't have all the answers. We're not going to claim we have all the answers. We're just going to look at the information that's presented to us, give you guys a little bit more insight, hope that you guys do a little bit more research on your own, and that you grow a little bit from this process, because this is not something that we're going to be able to fix through one podcast. It's going to be multiple ones over time for us to engage folks in those conversations. And we're happy to bring people in that have a different point of view. And I've been doing the radio program here in New Mexico on election night coverage for a number of years. And let me tell you, when I say something that is not to some people's liking, my phone blows up like crazy. And, folks are always, and kind of, this is why I kind of like the podcast better, because we're not running live. So I'm not getting
we got to get that. We got to get the live chat going at some point, right?
We'll be doing a couple of lives. I mean, right now, I think that we're both getting our feet wet in this space to kind of understand it a lot better and hear from our viewers and give them an opportunity to help influence the conversation, because that's what we need to do. But at the same time, we're coming here towards the end of our time. But at the same time, Eddie, one of the things that we want to start doing here is we want to start having tri-takes, right?
Yeah.
And
These are the hot takes, right? These
these
are
are-
like,
these,
boom, what's happening?
these are the boom,
Right?
what's happening in our respective states and what's going on. So we have something good, something gritty, and something good new.
So
So,
like the gritty, like the dance,
well, not the nitty gritty dirt band, I think is what it is.
because JJ just, I mean, this people will watch this later, but he just had a hamstring for all my fantasy football friends. Number one wide receiver out of
Ooh.
Minnesota pulled his hamstring in camp today. So the gritty ain't gonna be happening much today.
Well, I mean, what do you got? What do you got? What's good on your end?
All right,
Eddie?
something good, something good. I would say, you know, I'm out here in Utah, and my first experience in sort of like Utah summer. So those from Utah that are going to watch this are going to be cracking up because, you know, hey, when was July 4th? For us, I mean, I don't know when you're watching this, but it was like 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. In Utah, man, Utahns or Utahnians or Utonans, whatever they're called, or I'm called now, they love fireworks. It is out of control. This entire culture is obsessed with fireworks. And so we had July 4th, and we had July 5th, and July 6th, and July 7th. And then all of a sudden they make up a whole nother holiday called Pioneer Days. And what are Pioneer Days? I don't even know. But the whole point of Pioneer Days is to have another week-long celebration of fireworks. And they're shooting it off from their rooftops, from their cul-de-sacs, from parks. You're driving down the street at 11 p.m. at night, and there's fireworks going off anywhere. So something good. I got to get in the habit of enjoying and finding a new love for fireworks and firecrackers because the world that me and my family are going to live in for a little bit now is obsessed with fireworks. So there's something good.
So there's something good. What do you got that's gritty?
Okay, gritty. Oof, Arizona. My grittiness in Arizona. So here's what's popping in Arizona. Superintendent of Public Instruction, Horn, Tom Horn. He's running for re-election. He's trying to find his issues. He's going all in putting armed officers in every single school in Arizona. And I'm going to be honest. I don't know if I like. I'm not here to critique that, right? Like I've known Tom for a long time. You know, we used to joke because he's got the E at the end of his name. So we all said, oh, Tom Horny, here he comes. But Mr. Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tom Horn, great guy, a lot of challenging issues. I don't agree with him on a lot of stuff. But this is really interesting, right?
Yeah.
He's wanting to put an armed officer in every school to protect the students. And, you know, as a parent, right, as Theo, I'm sure we can agree that having the security and safety of our children is the most important thing in our schools, don't you think?
Yeah, it's important, but you know, I don't feel comfortable about, you know, somebody else in the school with a gun other than the shooter, because you know a lot of the times, and let's talk about, you know, I don't know about your, you know, police force for public schools out there, but you know, I'm not 100% sure that our police force you know, these cops could actually really hit a target and you could actually probably hit a kid. So I'm a little hesitant.
Sisto, I'm going to disagree with you on that.
I'm a little hesitant.
Many of our men and women that has gone through that practice, and I think they'll do it. Listen, at the very least, I want a responsible individual who knows how to use a firearm. Right
there, you go.
Near. And maybe they park out front, right? Maybe they don't have to roam the halls, but someone to secure and keep our children safe. Yeah. And I think that's an important piece.
Yeah.
But they need to be trained, and I think that's what you're trying to say, right? Our men and women of the badge need to be trained appropriately. That means we need to invest in them, give them proper training.
Yep.
But I think that's pretty gritty, and hopefully Justin Jefferson doesn't do that gritty on that.
And the new good? What you got?
All right, the new good. Something that I would bring to you. It's really interesting, like prediction markets, right? There's prediction markets popping, something called futures, and it is challenging the institution of online gaming. So you've got William Hill, you got Caesars, right? Jamie Foxx is out there, you know, promoting. Shaq's out there promoting Caesars, and you could bet. You got FanDuel, you got all those other things. Well, just like in traditional disruptive markets, here comes an innovative idea that says, you know what? We don't want to bet against the house, right? I don't want the house to constantly create odds that are stacked against me. I want a fair exchange, right? I want to understand my engagement. And so along comes prediction markets. And it's really interesting. There's all these companies out there, Polymarket, Smarkets, Kalshi, Empire Sports. Like there's all these different groups. And what they're doing is they're creating an opportunity for over-the-counter exchanges between two individuals. So something new that I'm really excited to learn a little bit, because those of you that know me know I love my sports gambling. And apparently this is not sports gambling, it is trading. And so what they're doing is they're allowing two individuals to trade over the counter and create a futures trade on what the percentage of an outcome might be. I think it's really interesting. Now, on the flip side of that, many of these companies are doing this with politics, right? You can bet on the outcome of an election. There's some dude in California who's running for governor, and he put a couple $1,000 on himself. How illegal is that? What the hell's going on there? So something new. Look into these prediction markets. I think it's going to disrupt the sports gaming industry, which frankly should be. I mean, it's the deck is stacked against the average consumer, and allow traders to do things more appropriate in the way that it used to be. So there's my 3 hot try takes for you, Sisto.
Well, I think that so New Mexico, something good. Something good is that our state is actually doing pretty well with our oil and gas leases. We got about $54 million in new revenue that was generated by the state land office, by our land commissioner Stephanie Garcia Richards. They raised the royalties on those extractions a bit on oil and gas companies. There was a lot of kerfuffle early on. Yes, I said kerfuffle. That these were not going to be viable, and that every oil and gas company in the state was going to just flee. Which didn't, and she has a great line. Turns out they did flee for their checkbooks to make sure that they paid their leases. So that's brand new revenue here in New Mexico. Oil and gas dollars go straight back into our classrooms from those leases. Those are dollars that we're going to be able to be spent on improving education in New Mexico.
More money
and
more
trying
problems.
to make something happen there. Now the gritty is something
gritty.
Something that's kind of just slowly unfolding as we are filming this is our Senate Pro Tem Mimi Stewart has been charged with an ethics violation. They're debating that as we speak. More to come on the details of that. So
stay tuned.
Stay tuned. It's
that might be gritty and prickly.
It may be gritty and prickly. We don't know yet, but we're going to find out. And so what's new? What's good new? Is not really something that's
good new.
That good new. It's we're the district attorney here in Bernalillo County, Sam Bregman, along with other law enforcement officers, have banded together to try to influence the legislature in the upcoming legislative session to pass some meaningful crime reform bills in regards to juvenile offenders. A lot of folks, a lot of those advocacy groups we were talking about before, have some issues with the past proposals that have been put on the table. It seems to be gaining a lot of traction, but it seems that this is not just a local New Mexico issue, but this is something that's happening throughout the entire West and happening through the entire country about juvenile violence and crime that is starting to spike.
So that's District Attorney Bregman, who's running for governor.
Yes.
In New Mexico.
Yes.
Okay.
So, he's also the DA for the largest, county in the state, Bernalillo County,
That's
which is
right.
Albuquerque. But that's something that I think that we're going to be talking about in future episodes is about juvenile crime. I'm going to love digging into your therapist's brain about how our kids are affected by the pandemic and how that might be having some effects on on crime, and what your thoughts are on that. But that would be a new for us in our next few episodes. So want to thank everybody for coming back in and spending some time with us. We always enjoy putting these things together. Visit our website, cactuscrossfire.com. There you'll find all the links to all of our social pages, not my personal ones, but you can find it if you look. Like Eddie wants you to start stalking me.
That's right. Google
You know.
Sisto,
Yeah.
Sitsto,
Yeah.
a beta.
This is what's about to happen now. Now you're all seeing that this is 20 years of friendship right here. Google Sisto. That's
That's right.
You're gonna
Just
have
Google
fun.
Sisto.
Yeah, you're gonna Google Sisto. So everybody, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. You have any, like us, subscribe, hit the button below. Make sure that you're liking our content and sharing it with as many folks as you can. And we look forward to seeing you guys next time. Thanks for
Next time.
Next
Brother,
time.
good
Take care.
talking with you.